Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at 9 different red and near-infrared light therapy masks for anti-aging. I'm a big proponent of red light, near-infrared light therapy, and in particular the at-home use masks. And I've been using the OmniLux mask for about 3 years now, and I love that thing. I loved everything that it did for my skin and how fast it was. This was the one device that I used that everyone in my life could tell that I was using it within a month of me starting to use it. People started asking me, what are you doing to your face? It looks so good. What are you doing for your skin? And I was like, it's gotta be that red light mask. So I know it works. I could definitely see the difference in my skin, in my before and after pictures. My wrinkles were reduced, my pores were reduced, my discolorations were reduced, my skin looked firmer and plumper and just clearer overall, so that I didn't have as much redness in my skin, and my skin was looking just great. So I continued on using that mask for, the next few years. But in the last couple of years, the industry has been cranking out the new masks, and they're each trying to come up with a better mousetrap, and they're putting interesting things in the masks like lasers and pulsing light and adding more lights and different wavelengths, but that also makes it kind of confusing for those of us who are trying to pick which one to purchase. I actually did 2 videos previously where I compared about 8 to 10 masks in each one, so I've looked at about 20 different masks previously. Today I'm going to look at another 9. I purchased most of these masks with my own money. I do have discount codes from a couple of them. I'm waiting to hear back from a couple, so hopefully I will get those discount codes for you before this video goes up, but links for all the masks are in the info box below the video. I'm going to throw a ton of information at you in this video, so if you appreciate a very informative video that tells you everything that you need to know to purchase a mask, then definitely give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. So we'll get into the individual masks a little bit later in the video, but first, I really think that it's going to be helpful to look at the research in figuring out which mask is best, what specs we're looking for in a piece of tech like this for the home. Unfortunately, the research into low-level light therapy, also known as photobiomodulation, is vast. There is tons of it. If you look that up, there's like 10,000 studies, but they're on everything that photobiomodulation could help with. And when you just start focusing on skin rejuvenation and anti-aging, then the research becomes a very small pool of research. And when you take a subset of that that's been done on actual at-home devices like LED masks, that is like a handful of studies. So the devices we're talking about for at-home use light in the visible spectrum and also in the invisible near-infrared spectrum. Skin naturally absorbs light, but it absorbs different wavelengths of light to different depths. This chart illustrates the absorption of various colors of light through a human hand. The black line shows penetration depth, so we can see that the deepest penetration is at 830 nanometers of near-infrared light. And there's also deep penetration through the red wavelengths. Blue, green, yellow, and amber light penetrate much more shallowly into the skin. This deeper penetration in the red and near-infrared range allows the light to affect cells deep in the skin. They're absorbed by fibroblasts, melanocytes, and keratinocytes, causing increased collagen and elastin production, increased collagen density, increased ATP, which is cellular energy, reduced inflammation, reduced discolorations. They also increase blood flow to the skin, which brings oxygen and nutrients to the skin. The 2 most studied wavelengths for anti-aging are 633 nanometers in the red range and 830 nanometers of near-infrared light. Those are considered to be the gold standard and the most proven, and those are the ones that are used in the professional arrays that are used in dermatologists' offices. But aside from those 2 wavelengths, there are lots of other wavelengths that have been studied, although, very small studies. One that appears in a couple of the masks we're going to talk about today is 1072 near-infrared. That one has been studied mainly for men's skin because men's skin is thicker and this wavelength penetrates the skin deeper. I found 3 very small studies on this wavelength that say that it looks promising, but they all say that it needs more research to really bear out whether or not it really is an important wavelength for anti-aging. 660 is considered deep red light, and that I notice is used in a lot of the masks that I tried out. 660 is much less proven than 633. I did find a couple of studies on 660. It said that it could do pretty much the same things as 633, but I did see in this one study that showed that To get the same results out of a wavelength of 660, you had to expose the skin for more time with more energy than you do to get the same results out of 633. So 633 can give you all the benefits at a lower power level. Blue light is also well studied for treating acne. I'm not really specifically looking for a mask that has blue light in it. Some of these do, and that will appeal to some people. For me, I prefer one without blue light because blue light, while it can help with acne, it can also damage the eyes, and it can also cause darker pigmentation on the skin. So you have to be a little bit more careful with blue light than with, say, red and near infrared light. And the other colors of light in between red and blue are much less studied and much less proven. According to the research, the wavelength of light is the most important factor in whether or not a mask is going to work, because the wavelength is the biggest determinant of how far the light is going to penetrate into the skin. And so without the light getting deep into the skin to interact with the fibroblasts and the melanocytes, you're not going to get any reaction that results in better skin. This little graphic is a really good example of that. It's showing a green laser shining through a finger and a red laser shining through a finger. You can see that red light penetrating deeply to all the structures of the finger, whereas the green light really is only a surface penetration. It doesn't get down to the deeper layers of skin. But there are two other factors that are also really important in getting those wavelengths into your skin. The first one is irradiance or power density. That's measured in milliwatts per centimeter squared. The power densities that are considered both safe for at-home use and still effective are in the 30 to 50 milliwatt per centimeter square range. Things above 50 milliwatts per centimeter square going up to 100 can tend to generate too much heat in the skin, which can aggravate melasma and other heat stress related skin issues. And anything too far below 30 probably doesn't have the power to help the wavelengths get deep enough into the skin. A third factor to consider is dose, which is measured in joules per centimeter squared. That's determined by the irradiance and the length of exposure. There isn't a ton of discussion about how many joules are the right amount to have in an at-home mask, because unfortunately all the studies don't look at the exact same things. But the generally accepted dose that's good for at-home masks is around 18 joules. Of course, it can go up from there, it can go down from there. If it's too high, you run the risk of too much heat being generated in the skin or it being too strong. If it's too low, you end up with an ineffective mask. Another really important factor with at-home masks is proximity to skin. The closer the bulb is to the skin, the higher the intensity and the better absorption and penetration you get from the light into the skin. The further you move the bulb away from the skin, the more that weakens the light just because of the distance, but also because the light bounces off the surface of the skin. And once it starts bouncing around, then it's losing energy and it's not getting as deeply into the skin. So having the bulbs right up next to your skin is really important. And then one consideration of lesser importance, but it will come up with two different masks that I have here today, is the beam angle. A wider beam angle will cover a larger area of skin and potentially overlap, providing more intensity in the overlaps. A narrower beam angle gives more focus on a particular area. There's very little mention in the literature about varying beam angles, but a couple of the masks that I have here today do have different beam angles than the rest. Most of them will be at 60 degrees, which gives you a fairly straight line from the bulb to the skin, which is also important, but it doesn't spread out too far. But you do want a little bit of spread so that you get a little bit of overlap, because you get more intensity where they overlap. And of course, one of these masks being a laser mask, it doesn't really have any spread at all. It's more of a pinpoint. And so it's not spreading out to a wider area of skin. And one last factor that ties into beam angle is the amount of bulbs in the mask. I think the amount of bulbs in the mask is pretty important, because you really don't get that overlapping beam angle if the bulbs are too far apart, and you're not going to get that increase in intensity where they do overlap. It also just plain old makes sense to have more bulbs so that you're getting light exposure on every inch of your skin. But just looking at the few studies that there are, it leads me to believe that more bulbs is better, that I'm looking for a mask with a 633 wavelength of red light and an 830 wavelength of near infrared light. Those are the ones that are used in the professional arrays, and so those are the ones that also have the most study. Those are the ones that have been shown to penetrate the deepest into the skin and to be the most effective. Now, if a mask has 1072 or 660 in it or some other near infrared, is that going to make or break it for me? Probably not, but I want to make sure that most of the mask is going to be the two most proven wavelengths. Now, as far as the power and the joules, I'm pretty much looking for 30 milliwatts per centimeter squared, around that area, maybe up to 50. Nothing really above 50, nothing really below 30. And I'm also looking for about 18 joules at a reasonable price point with a reasonable session time. You know, I don't want to be wearing the thing for a half an hour. 10 minutes is what I'm used to. I would like to keep it around 10 minutes to get a nice treatment to see some results, and that's what'll work for me. So those are the parameters that I'm looking for. As I say, you may be looking for something different. So let's start looking at the masks, and as I did before in the other two videos, I made a chart so that we could at least organize the information. So down the left-hand side will be all the various masks, and across the top will be all the parameters that we're looking for. And then I'll fill it in and we'll be able to see what wavelengths each mask use, what power density, how many joules, how many bulbs, how close it sits to your skin, what the price is, and then some extras like, does it have a warranty? Is it FDA cleared? And then I want to go over like the fit and the comfort and how the controller works and things like that. I am going to do the masks from my least favorite to my most favorite. So let's talk about the first mask, which is the Qure Rejuvelite mask. This is a cutie. I love the color of this. It's very pretty. Let's take a look at the specs on this one first. It is FDA cleared. The red light wavelength on it is 630 nanometers. So that is very close to that 633. The thing to keep in mind with the bulbs is that they're not going to be the exact like 633 wavelength. It's within a plus or minus of usually about 5 or 10, and that will be bigger as the quality of the mask goes down and as the price point goes down. So your lower price masks, it could be a range of 20 in there. Your higher price masks, it could be down to as little as 2. I don't know what this is plus or minus, but even if it's plus or minus 10, 633 is definitely still in that range. So this has the right color of red light for me, but for me it doesn't have the right color of near infrared. It's got 880, which is 50 nanometers off from the 830 that I'm looking for, and 50 is too big of a swing. It's never going to get close to being 830. Now this one does contain 3 other colors of light in it. It's got the 415 blue light, which is for acne. It's got 605 amber light, which is one of those shallower ones with much less study on it. And it also has 660 deep red light. This has 160 bulbs total, but of course it's not 160 of each color. So when companies give you a high number of bulbs, they're usually adding all the bulbs together. They're not telling you how many of each individual bulb you get. This mask contains 160 bulbs total, but there's only 30 of the 415 blue wavelength, 55 of the 630 red light nanometer wavelength, and 25 each of the 605, 660, and 880 wavelengths. So for me, that is too few bulbs of each color. You know, I'm used to using the OmniLux mask, which is 66 bulbs of each color. As far as the intensity goes, they tell you the total intensity as though you can add it up rather than for each wavelength, because of course you're not having all the wavelengths on at once. So with 415, the intensity is 25. With 605, it's 15. With 630, it's 20. With 660, it's 25. And with 880, the intensity is 10. And the joules are only between 2 and 11. So this is a very, very low-powered mask. The session time is very, very short, though. It's only 3 minutes, which is kind of nice. It's much shorter than any other mask, but if you wanted to raise the intensity of it, you could do a double session. You could do 6 minutes, and then that would double all those numbers and get them into the range that we're looking for. Being a hard mask like this, it definitely doesn't give you that close contact with your skin. And for what it doesn't have, I would think that it would cost less, but it's $400, $399. It does come with a 1-year warranty, and there is an app that you can control the different treatments that you get. This one fit my face very well, and I find it to be fairly comfortable. It is fairly small though, and it's not giving me a huge amount of coverage like along the jawline or up at the top of my forehead. It's easy to operate. It's got the one button. It's okay in my book, but for close to $400, I don't know, not the best thing out there. All right, the next mask I want to talk about will probably be shocking to a lot of you that it's ranking so low for me. And that is the JOVS 4D laser mask. This mask is different from all the other masks in today's video because this mask uses lasers rather than LEDs. And according to JOVS, it gives you 6 times more power than LEDs. So the question here is, are lasers better than LEDs for photobiomodulation? The main differences between lasers and LEDs is that laser light tends to travel in a straight line, where LED light tends to spread a little bit. And also laser light can be truly monochromatic. So if you pick, say, 860 as your wavelength, then you are getting 860 as your wavelength within 1 or 2 nanometers. And one study specifically mentioned that there's often an underlying assumption that a more focused beam results in better delivery of light, when actually it was demonstrated over 30 years ago that specific wavelength of light delivered to tissue at a uniform and consistent power density resulted in substantially greater depths of penetration when the light was delivered over a larger area. I did read a few papers that compared lasers to LEDs. The general gist of everything that I read from the experts in the field, they were pretty much saying that for photobiomodulation, that LEDs are just as good as lasers, and there's really no difference between them. So let's go over the specs first, and then we'll talk about, comfort and use and everything. This mask is FDA cleared. The red light on this one is 660 nanometers, and they don't include 633 in this mask. For the near infrared, it's 850. Again, a miss by 20 nanometers. This does also include 2 other wavelengths of near infrared, 940, which I didn't see anything about that in the studies, and 1064, which is deep near infrared. It's not as deep as the 1072 that has been studied a little bit. The only studies I could find on the 1064 wavelength were studies on the YAG laser. What that laser is mainly used for is spider veins and broken capillaries and redness in the skin. So you can't really conflate that into this kind of laser. For the number of bulbs, JOVS says there are 143 bulbs in this mask. When I count up the chips, there are 73 chips. Now, when I turn this one on, I can see that the visible red light is coming out of all the chips in the mask. So that means you get 73 light bulbs of the red wavelength 660. Now, because near infrared is invisible, of course, I can't see when those chips are on and which chips they're on in. But I got lucky and I saw in one of the JOVS ads where they actually outlined which area of the mask had which bulbs, and so I was able to count them up. There are 6 bulbs of the 850 wavelength, 43 of the 940, and 24 of the 1064. But for me, instead of having all these different near-infrared wavelengths on different parts of the face, I'd rather just have the 830 on the whole thing because the results are shown with 830. Let's move on to the irradiance, which they say is 143 milliwatts per centimeter squared. Now again, I think they're adding up the irradiance of all the bulbs. So the irradiance is probably smaller like we saw with the Qure Mask. Each color is probably less than that, I would think. But if 143 is really the number, that's high. It can have some unwanted side effects like generating heat in the skin. And the whole point of these masks is that they're not supposed to generate heat, so that they're not supposed to cause any discolorations or melasma. I think what they're doing is just appealing to people's sense of more is more and bigger is better, because that's how we all think, isn't it? Like, I want the highest irradiance and I want the highest number of joules. But in light therapy, it's not necessarily the best thing. So anyway, they're saying it's 143 milliwatts per centimeter square. Who am I to argue? I tried to calculate out the joules by taking the treatment times, and it came out to 85 joules for a 10-minute treatment, 171 joules for a 20-minute treatment. It's a lot of intensity and a lot of dose. I don't know, it just seems high to me. I'm sure it probably isn't that high, but again, I don't know. The session time, 10, 15, or 20 minutes. The distance from the skin, very close. These are very close to the skin. The fit on this is very good, very tight. So I'd say 0 to 1/8 of an inch. The price on this one is $749, so it's substantially more than any of the other masks that I'm reviewing here today. This does come with a 1-year warranty. Okay, so what I do like about this mask, this is really soft, it's very comfortable to wear, and it has the best fit. I don't love that it just has this one giant gaping eye opening, because I want the red light to be getting on my eyelids. I want it to be getting under my eyes, definitely on my crow's feet, on this space here. And with this, with that narrow beam with no spread, you really aren't getting the light spreading to where the mask isn't. This one doesn't have a mouth opening. It just has a little space here for you to breathe. And so people who don't like the other masks because they don't have bulbs on the upper lip, you might like this one because it definitely does treat your whole mouth area. Controller is pretty easy to use. This is the on button. Just hold it to turn it on. You can see the lights in there. It has a timer button. There's 3 different times, 10, 15, and 20. And here is where you toggle the different treatment modes. M1 is soothing mode, M2 is standard mode, M3 is deep mode. And they don't really tell me which wavelengths are being applied in each mode. To me, it looks like the same wavelengths are applied. It literally is just giving them more power and more brightness as I toggle it up and down. My main problem with it in use is that all your air is mainly trapped inside there with you. These little holes, I don't think let enough of it out. In the first 5 minutes, my face started feeling hot. By the time I took it off, my face was either sweaty or the condensation from my own breath inside the thing had settled on my skin, because my skin was actually damp. Like, those little holes are not letting out enough air. Sorry, but they're not. I want to think that it's not that my skin got so hot that I was sweating, but as we know, a caution with these is if they get too hot and you have melasma that's caused by heat or something else, pigmentation caused by heat, then that can be a problem. Those would be my pros and cons of this one. It's not on the top of my list as something to buy. For $7.50, you could get a face mask and a neck and chest bib of a mask that gives you the more precise wavelengths and is much easier to operate, that you don't get all sweaty in, and you don't look like Hannibal Lecter either. All right, this next mask is the Maysama Prana mask. Now this one's interesting. It uses a slightly different technology than a lot of the other masks. It is still an LED-based mask, but Maysama is very interested in pulsing the light. I found 2 studies on pulsed light versus continuous light. One of the studies showed that pulsed light was more effective. The other study showed that continuous light was more effective. So there's really no conclusive evidence that one is better than the other. The main consensus that I got on pulsed light is that if you're going to pulse the light, you have to increase either the intensity or the joules, because basically by pulsing the light, which is turning it on and off, you are reducing the amount of time that the light is shining on your skin by half. Let's take a look at the specs on this one. It is FDA cleared. The red light wavelength on it is 630 nanometers. For the near infrared, it's 850. Now this one does contain 450 blue light, and it also has 660 deep red light. This has 138 bulbs total, 73 of the 630 red light nanometer wavelength, and 21 each of the 450, 660, and 850 wavelengths. So the intensity, they gave a range of 40 to 45, but with the joules, it did give a difference. So the joules when it's pulsed is 14, and the joules when it is continuous is 21.8. The session time on this one is 6 minutes if it's pulsing. It's a 9-minute session time if it's continuous. The distance on this one is from 0 to, I'm going to say up to about 1/4 to 1/2 inch because of the strap style. This only has the one strap, and so it doesn't give me that customized top versus bottom. So I lose a lot of contact at the bottom with this mask. This retails for $375. Again, for that same money, I think there are better masks that you can get here. This does come with a 2-year warranty. What some people will like about it is it doesn't have a mouth opening. It does have bulbs here in the mouth area. This controller has a little window display there where you can see what you actually have on. It'll tell you what mode it's in and what color light it's giving you. It tells you whether the pulsing is on or off, and it gives you the time of your session. You don't have to use the pulsing mode. You can if you like the idea of the pulsing mode. So it's not a bad mask. It's just, again, not one of my favorites because the wavelengths are just a little bit too far off, and I don't want the blue, and I'm not sold on the pulsing, so not a great mask for me, but could be for someone. All right, next up is going to be the least expensive mask. So if you're looking for a decent mask that you can get into for under $200, this is going to be the mask for you. This one is from Hooga. Let's take a look at the specs first. The Hooga mask is not FDA cleared, but Hooga says that FDA doesn't require clearance on non-medical devices, and since this is a non-medical device, then they don't need FDA clearance. The red wavelength on it is 630 nanometers, so give or take 5 or 10, you're definitely at the 633. This one, the near infrared, again, is 850. Not 830, off by 20, not gonna get there. This one also contains 660 in the deep red range. This mask gives you 66 of each color. The intensity on this mask is an impressive 50 watts per centimeter squared, so it's giving you a lot of power. And the treatment time is 5 to 10 minutes on this one. So if you do a 5-minute treatment time, the joules are 15. And if you do a 10-minute treatment time, it's 30 joules for that treatment. So that's a pretty powerful mask. This one does sit very close to the skin, so I put it at about 0 to 1/8 of an inch. I don't get as close a fit at the bottom of my face. So this one retails for $149, and it comes with a 2-year warranty. The silicone is very soft on this one. It's very comfortable. It comes with little eye goggle protectors. I don't love the strap on this one, but the way these ear holes are big, I could put a separate strap through there, and then I would get more of a custom fit on it. The controller on the Hooga mask gives you lots of different options. You can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the timer from 5, 10, 15 to 20 minutes. You can adjust the colors of lights that are on from just red to red plus near infrared, or near infrared alone. And you can turn the pulsing on and off, and within the pulsing there are 3 different frequencies that you can choose: 73, 146, or 292 hertz. So there is just so much packed into this mask for such an inexpensive price point. It's hard to believe that they can make this mask and have it have so much packed in it. This is definitely the bang for your buck mask. They also make a neck and chest bib. If you add on the neck and chest bib, it only brings the price for the 2 of them up to $199. That's pretty unheard of in this space. All right, the next mask is the higher dose mask. Let's talk about the specs on this one. This is FDA cleared. The red light wavelength is 630. The near infrared light wavelength is 830. There are no other wavelengths, just those 2. This contains 132 bulbs total, so 66 of each. The intensity on this one is 50 milliwatts per centimeter squared for 30 or 60 joules, depending on if you do the 10 or 20-minute treatment. This one sits between 0 and 3/4 of an inch away from the face. This one also doesn't give me a super tight fit at the bottom of my face. This mask is $349. I do have a 15% off code with higher dose, and that brings this mask down to under $300. And this mask comes with a 1-year warranty. It is a soft, flexible mask, and so it is comfortable to wear. Because it has the single strap at the back, so I can't adjust the lower face part of it. I can't get it to wrap tight enough around my head. The controller on this mask is pretty basic. It's just got one power button, and it's got a 10-minute or a 20-minute timer that you can select using the power button, and then it goes off automatically. The main advantage of this one over some of the other masks is that you can get into this one for under $300, and the intensity is higher than most of the masks that I'm going to show coming up as the top masks. But I would only get this one if you're not prone to melasma or you're not prone to any light-induced pigmentation. Then this is a really great mask if you can somehow customize the fit at the bottom end of your face, or if you don't have a tiny jawline like me. All right, coming in at number 3 and 4 today, I'm a little bit sad to say, are my OmniLux masks. This is the men's mask. This is the original contour mask. This is the one that I used first that gave me all the really great results. So I love this mask. So the 2 OmniLux masks are virtually identical masks, except one has 1 extra wavelength of light. So let me tell you the specs on both of these at the same time, since most of them are the same. They're both FDA cleared. The red light on these are 633 nanometers. nanometers. The near infrared is 830, so it's right on the money for that most tested near infrared wavelength. The men's mask includes an extra wavelength of 1072. That's the one that did have a handful of studies on it as like the deep near infrared. That was supposed to help with deeper penetration for men's thicker skin. There are 66 red bulbs, 66 near infrared, but there aren't many bulbs of this 1072. There's only 6, 2 on the forehead, 1 under each eye, and 2 on the chin. If you have the original contour mask, I don't think you're missing out on anything by not having the men's mask. They have the same intensity, which is 30, same number of joules, which is 18. The session time is 10 minutes. They both sit really close to the skin, and they're both retail for $3.95, and I have a 10% off discount code, HF10. You can apply that. They come with a 2-year warranty. These are very comfortable to wear. They're really easy to use. I like it that I can keep the straps attached like this, and I just slide it over my head, and then I just tighten up this bottom strap and I keep this one where it is, and it's the exact fit that I need for my head. So that makes it really easy and convenient for me, and I love how they fit because of the 2-strap design, so I can get the nice close fit and get the bulbs right next to my skin. The controller is very simple. It's just 1 button on. It has a 10-minute timer. It shuts off at the end. Next up is the Rajani MD Plasma Glow Mask. This mask is very similar to OmniLux mask as far as the wavelengths. It does have more bulbs. It does include this little chin strap here that has 4 bulbs in it, so you do get some coverage down here from the mask. This is FDA cleared. The red wavelength on it is 630. The near infrared is 830. The other wavelength that this does contain is 415 blue. So if you struggle with acne, you could use the blue part of it. For me, I wouldn't use the blue. Number of bulbs, there are 78 of each bulb. The intensity is the same as OmniLux at 30 milliwatts per centimeter squared. The joules are the same at 18. The session time is the same at 10 minutes. You do get a nice close fit with this in spite of it being the single strap in the back. So I'm getting like a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of space between my face and the bulbs. This is $425. I got a 15% off code for you on the Rajani mask. Use code Angie15 at the link in the description box for 15% off your order. That brings it down to $361.25. This has a 1-year warranty. And then another feature of this mask is that he's got light bulbs here above the upper lip. And the other thing that makes this mask a little bit different is the beam angle of the light bulbs. The beam angle on these is 120 degrees, so they've got twice the spread as the beam angle on most of these other LED masks. So you get more spread, which means that you get more of that overlap, which means maybe it ups the intensity a little bit. This mask is pretty comfortable to wear. One thing that I didn't love about it is that the nose isn't split, and it just put a lot of extra pressure on the bridge here. When you wrap up the little chin thing, it has a strap that goes over your head. That does give me a slightly better fit at the bottom part of my face. There's still a pretty big gap in there. You know, it creates kind of a little square there. Mode 1 is red and near infrared. Mode 2 is blue all by itself, and mode 3 is blue and red combined. And the last mask that I have to share today is the Current Body version 2 mask. Current Body had a previous mask that was almost as good as the OmniLux, but not quite, mainly because it didn't have as many bulbs. Well, with this one, Current Body took on OmniLux, went head to head, and topped the OmniLux mask. They put in so many bulbs. That is fantastic. I feel like you're getting really good coverage on every inch of your skin with this one. And they're really keen on getting the bulbs to be almost exactly the wavelength of light. You can also verify your wavelengths on an app. So they're really into being fully transparent and giving you all the information that you need to know to make your mask purchasing decision. So let's look at the specs on this one. This mask is FDA cleared. The wavelength of the red is 633, and that's plus or minus 2 nanometers, so extremely close. The near infrared is 830 nanometers, also plus or minus 2. This one does have the 1072 wavelength. For the number of bulbs, this is where this one really shines. It has 110 of the 633 nanometers. It has 110 of the 830 near infrareds. Of the 1072, it's got 16 bulbs under the eyes and around the mouth. The intensity on this one is 30 milliwatts per centimeter squared. The joules are 18, the session time 10 minutes. The distance from the face, I give this one 0 to 1/8 of an inch for the upper part. At the bottom with this one, because it does have the one strap, 1/4 to 1/2 an inch. The price on this one is $4.69. I do have a 10% off discount code, is Angie, and this one does come with a 2-year warranty. This one also has a chin strap. In the chin strap, there are 8 light bulbs, so 1 more light bulb on each side than you're getting with the Rajani mask. This one is more integrated into the mask, and the mask is more of a shaped mask than a flat mask. You can't actually lay this one completely flat. And this one does have these little eye protectors that insert in here, making it very comfortable to wear. I do have a little bit of a struggle fitting this one for my lower face, mainly because it's got the one strap on it, and so it doesn't pull the lower part tight enough. There's only one mode with this one, on off, 10-minute timer. This one also has a clip so you can clip it to your clothing. I would definitely recommend putting in the little eye protectors. If you are someone whose eyes are very sensitive to light, you might not like this mask, because with so many bulbs, there is a lot of light spill. There is light everywhere with this mask. It's just amazing how much light this mask generates. So this is probably the one that I'm going to go forward with and use this one for a bit. That said, this one is pretty expensive. It's going to just be out of some people's price range. If you have the OmniLux mask already, or some other mask that's a good quality mask that has the right wavelengths at the same intensity, at the same number of joules for the same session time, do I think you need to dump that mask and run out and get this one? Absolutely not. I think you are perfectly fine using that one. But if anything happens and you are in the market for a new mask and you can't afford over $400 for a mask, I would say that this is probably the best one at the price point. Certainly, I think this one is a way better mask than the JOVS 4D mask that is going to cost you twice as much as this one. But if you want to get in a mask for around $350, the OmniLux are still great. The Rajani mask is a good one. And if you don't have a lot of money to spend, I would recommend the Hooga. I think that is a great mask for under $200. Hopefully, if you are in the market for a red and near infrared light mask, that I have provided you with some information here today to help you make a decision about which mask you think is the best fit for your lifestyle. The thing to remember with masks and any devices or any skincare really is that it's not going to give you results on your skin if you don't use it. So there's no point in buying any of these if it's going to sit in a drawer and gather dust. You have to use it. You have to use it consistently. These take generally around 3 months to see the full results. But I got to say, with the masks I've used before, I started seeing results in about a month. They increase collagen and elastin production. They increase collagen density in the skin. And so that helps your skin to be plumper and firmer and just more youthful looking in general. So, all right, so that is my full review of those 9 LED masks, along with just a little bit of information that may help you to select a mask. So if you found the video helpful and informative, go ahead and give it a like. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. As always, I thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your watching. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.